Good evening, everyone. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Francis is working on fixing his audio. Welcome to the episode 1 of season 7 of GameSense. I'm Ruth Toomey. Francis is going to be hosting for most of the night. With us from RSN, we have Clinton Bollinger, Karthik Kennegasabapathy, and joining us is for tonight is Adam Bocek of 2200. Thanks everyone for joining us. We are super excited to be starting GameSense again for the 7th season, along with all the play-by-play coverage that we're doing on First TV. Make sure that you check us out over there every Saturday during the competition season. We're going to be taking questions in chat all night. Make sure you do ! question mark, and that way we'll see your questions, and we'll take a look at them at the end of the show in about the last 10-15 minutes. And we don't take ourselves too seriously here, so you shouldn't either. The important thing is to have fun, and if you don't like what we say on the show, make sure you go out there and prove us wrong. So, Adam, again, welcome. You're the one of the founding members of 2200, and you're currently the lead design mentor. Is that right?
For 2200? Absolutely.
Very exciting. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I guess I started in FRC 2007. As a founding student member of the team. Been a mentor ever since I graduated. Never really left the school, never left the team. Just been slowly trying to get better and better and better at FRC over the years. Been through some real lows with our team, 2010. Been through some pretty good robots as well, hit and miss, but I've got a pretty strong passion for FRC, and it's an addiction. You can't get over it, right? So.
Hey, Adam, don't be too modest here. You also had a little bit of an accomplishment this weekend. Do you want to tell us what happened?
Oh, sure. Yeah. We won our third blue banner ever, which for a team that's been around for 2007, that's a big moment for us. And back-to-back wins at Durham, which is huge for us. So it's showing the team's trending in the right direction.
I was there live to watch it happen. And I have to say your robot was the best robot that I've seen in person this season, and one of the best robots I've seen across the land. The amount of power you had out of that shooter was just ridiculous. I kept calling it the bam, 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 bam. It was just like you would hear it just hit the back plexi. It was kind of like a really cool sort of thing. But you guys seem just super well driven as well. Like it seemed like you'd gotten a lot of practice, or at least you faked it well enough.
Yeah. So something about our team that a lot of people probably don't know is we never let the same person drive 2 years in a row. So we have new drivers every year, and some years you get really good ones. Some years you have to put a lot of training in to get a good driver. This year, I have zero complaints at all. It's been relatively smooth sailing. There's definitely some room for small improvements here and there, but for a week 1 event, I'm going to say our practice robot had been running for a week and a half before our event. I'm pretty happy with how it went.
There's a lot to be said for the lack of having a bag day this year. Everybody's had so much more time to be able to work on and polish their robots, or, more time to kind of get lost in perfecting things, as some teams have seen this season. So let's start talking a little bit about what we saw out of week 1. What were some of the main things that you saw out of the game this year?
Hey, unmuting it always helps. All right. I hope everybody can hear me. If you can't, let me know. But one of the things that I was pleasantly surprised with was how many balls people actually shot. Like I always, and scored too. I remember back in like 2012, week 1, it was pretty rough with respect to how many people were actually able to score. Even way back in the day with 2006, a lot of teams had a lot of difficulties actually getting balls into the goal. And I was very impressed to see so many people shooting well and from so far away.
Yeah, I think considering the game piece we were given this year and how hard it is to handle it in general and move it through the robot. I feel like a lot of teams managed to solve that problem pretty well. Accuracy and repeatability are something that, you know, is really up to the condition of the game piece, unfortunately. But a lot of teams.
The other thing that I saw as well is like some people weren't always doing 5 balls. Some people just pick up 2 balls, shoot them, 3 balls, shoot them. So I think people were adapting with, kind of how their machine was working this weekend. A lot of people would always try to pick up 5, but they weren't afraid to shoot, 2 or 3 balls instead of making a whole nother trip to make sure they always had 5. And I think that kind of helps with some people's feed systems to allow for so there isn't as many jams.
Yeah, one thing that I noticed this weekend, and it was we're into the new world of no bag, and I was curious to see how that would affect things. And so I looked back at some of the stats between early week events in previous years and the such, and hanging is kind of a consistent one that you can kind of compare across. And so I was hoping this year that we would have much higher success rates, which we didn't really. So I guess that's kind of natural. And then what was really interesting was talking to our lead robot inspector, who was kind of stunned at how many teams just weren't ready for inspection. And she was saying that it was way fewer than what she's normally had in the bag era. And I think that lack of a hard deadline, for some teams, it really benefited them, because they were really able to manage their time well and utilize the couple extra weeks that they had. But I think that some teams, it was just handing them a little bit too much rope, and they just weren't ready at all. And I think some teams suffered for that, but like other teams, like Adam, like 2200 and 188, Durham really came out firing and took advantage of that. Well, it was very interesting to see. And then like you look at, Team 1690 Orbit out in Israel or 1619 out in Northern Forks, like the 16 teams, like they were all, just kind of, it seemed like they were like a step or two ahead of the game at that, especially Orbit in Israel, what the show that they put on. It's like they came out firing.
Absolutely. We were talking a little bit before, as we were doing show prep tonight, about how our teams have been affected by the lack of bag. And I was talking about how, my team's got the practice robot down at the facility. Every night we've got the main compot just getting polished, but we're actually 2 weeks behind where we should have been all build season. There are definitely times where we were a little bit more relaxed because, we've got the time, but it came up way faster. Super glad that Indiana is only competing starting this week. So we've got a little bit more freedom in our district with the fact that everybody else is playing their first event except for 135. But if we didn't have that extra couple weeks, we would be bringing a partial robot to our first event.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go, Adam. You're the guest.
I was just going to say that, I felt that our team was pretty much behind by about the same amount. We felt 2 weeks behind throughout the whole build season. We did lose one build day to a snowstorm, and I think we spent a lot more time than we normally would prototyping. We spent a good solid weekend, a bit, prototyping before we even started designing at all, which is unusual for our team. It definitely felt like we're in that 2 week behind sort of neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean,
no bag.
For 190, we're perpetually always behind. It seems we are famous for not having a finished robot at our first event a lot of times, and that was the case coming into this event. And so having even just the extra 5 or 6 days to literally put all the pieces onto the robot while it wasn't in the bag really saved our behinds. We pushed really hard to have a week 1 event and a week 2 event and a week 3 event, specifically so that we couldn't fall into a trap of putting it off. And so I don't know if the no bag helped us or hurt. I'm going to say it probably helped us overall, but even though we didn't end up fully getting the robot working in our first event, it was a bit of a save for us there.
Yeah. One thing that I would note is I think a lot of teams did benefit from it, but I did see some teams that it's one thing if a rookie team shows up to an event and they're overweight and they're behind schedule, not finished, can't pass inspection. But for a 3rd, 4th, 5th year team, especially in the era of no bag. I was kind of surprised that there was teams in that situation.
Yeah, one of the most important tools you can have in your shop at this time of year is a scale. I think a lot of teams were a little bit lax in what they're building this year. Weight limit was at 125, I believe, this year, but your total weight for all configurations is 150. And you had to make sure you weigh 125. So there's a whole extra step with inspection this year, and it just gets that much more difficult to keep track of, where you need your weight to be.
Yeah, I think with all this bag stuff, I think there's going to be some bumps, weeks 1, 2, and 3 as teams are figuring stuff out. But I really think the true gains are going to be for all those teams to play a second event and the improvements they make. Like we've already seen over the years how much teams improve from week 1 from their first event to the second event. That's been the beauty of the district system. But now that they have unlimited access to their robot, I think we're going to see a lot of cool things. I mean, we're going to see some dynamics that some people might not be super comfortable with because there's going to be a lot of imitation is the greatest form of flattery going on. But I think overall it's going to be really neat. And then by the time we get to the championship, we could see a much higher level play than we're used to, at least.
Yeah, I think teams that have done First Tech Challenge. Oh, Karthik, you're still talking. I think we missed a lot of that because you were cutting kind of in and out.
Sorry about that. I think everything might be better now, but I was just saying that I think the real improvements are going to be as teams get into their second event as we go towards the championship, because we've always seen how much teams improve from week to week when they get to play in extra time. That's been one of the beautiful things with the district model. And now that they have unlimited access to their robot, we could see a new level of play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that teams that have experience with First Tech Challenge or with XIQ or any of those other smaller robotics competitions where you're pretty much tearing your robot apart and rebuilding it are going to have a bit of an advantage over your typical FRC team, just because you're not used to tearing down your robot in between every single competition you have and maybe building a completely new one. Not everybody is 558, who's somewhat famous for doing that. Although not so much in the last couple of years. I mean, the level of improvement we've seen with the number of triple climbs that we've had this past week is actually pretty impressive. I can't wait to see where people take that in the next few weeks.
I think even at our first event, we had a couple of teams that were struggling with their climber, and they kind of had a sense of relief that they didn't have to worry about thinking about, we can only take 30 pounds off and then we can tweak it and then we got to put it back on and have this surgery on the robot for only 6 hours. They felt a little more relieved that, okay, we can take this back to the shop. We don't compete for 2 weeks. We can make our climber a lot more solid and more better than what it was, because they kind of had some issues with it. And you could just see the sense of relief on their face because they didn't have to worry about the back. So I just definitely going to, I think, up the ante for the competitive robots throughout the season. I am curious to see if people are going to make giant changes, full redesigns on their robot. We're too soon in the season to tell if people are going to do that.
Yeah, I know in the world of X robotics competition, it's always said if you're not getting ahead, you're falling behind. And you can come in early season with a really great robot, but everyone's constantly improving, so it's hard to rest on your laurels. And that was already a thing in FRC. I know back, you look back at the 2015 season, some of the teams who came out of the gate super fast, like we did on 11-14. By championship, a lot of teams had caught up or passed us, like 254 had. So there's always been an element of that, but I think it's going to, be on steroids.
Yeah, I know on our team, we definitely feel that we've always been a really good week 1 team. And then we always feel like the game maybe gets away from us a little bit by week 6. We do our best to try to, keep up with how the game evolves over the. Last year was maybe the first year where I think we did a good job of it, but the game, if you got to be careful, the game can get away from you real quick.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see how everything evolves this year. I mean, especially in an ecosystem like Michigan. Clinton, you can maybe comment a little bit more on this. Everybody is so close packed. So many folks are working together. You've got almost 570 teams in the state this year.
Yep. Yeah, the nice thing that we're seeing, I think, in the state is a lot more teams are utilizing, I guess, like practice fields. A lot of sharing of resources. Teams are inviting others out to their facility to be able to maybe do some practice runs. I think that you're going to see that big difference as well. Is like a lot of teams, haven't been able to practice with their robot because it's been in a bag, and now, if they, between whatever their second event in MSE, they might have 2-3 weeks to practice and get some time on the sticks that they weren't ever able to have before. So that's I think gonna see a lot of improvements there too. And what a little bit of why should every team build their own practice field? Why not have weekends where you just have a scrimmage, for 2v2 at someone's field to make things a little bit easier, and then like I said, people don't have to build these massive fields in warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. I know for us, we're really hoping to use this no bag era as a big advantage. Like I said, we're doing week 1, 2, and 3, which means that we know that we're going to the world championship, and we don't have a district championship in between to worry about. So basically, we get another month after our last competition to practice or tune or play with auto modes or whatever. And so our hope is that our robot's at a situation where we can get that all together and then just do all of those things that truthfully we've always wanted to do, and some years we even said, yeah, we're gonna have enough time to make an auto mode that's really great, or like have 2 or 3 different auto modes that were really great, but we've never had more than 6 hours to work on it because of the unbag rules. So that one will hopefully be a big boon for us and for other teams and districts, and even more so for other teams at regionals too. I think where they may not have had any unbag time if you went to regionals and didn't have a district event to worry about, so you didn't get that 6 hours of unbag. None of us are in regionals anymore, so we're a little bit out of touch in that realm, I guess. But
we only did 1 year of regionals, our team.
Wow, that's an interesting stat. I would never.
2008 was the only year we ever did a regional. After that, it was districts, baby.
Very cool. All right.
So, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Districts seem new to me.
So the funny thing is, our team actually competed in the pilot program. It was called a rookie regional, and it was held at Kettering University in 2008. And our team was able to uncrate our robot and actually compete with other rookies to kind of pilot the district system.
I do remember.
That's crazy. So with all this being said,
in the Mario.
Hey Karthik, I think you're going a little robotronic on us, sadly.
All right.
Yeah.
Ruth, why don't you go ahead and we'll wait for Karthik to catch up.
Here, let me try to guess what he said. He remembers our hammer that we had in 2008 that would just hit the ball over the overpass. That's what Karthik remembers.
You had a hammer in 2000.
I said the Mario hammer is what I said before I lagged.
See, I caught hammer in there in the Mario, so I saw it.
Well, clearly Karthik remembers the performance of Clinton's robot back in 2008, but let's talk a little bit about some of the performance we saw this week, this past weekend, and, who really stood out, what strategies were really effective. Clinton, let's kick it off with you.
Putting me on the spot, I guess. I think you saw a lot of different things. We did some stats from some of the Michigan events here. We noticed that I think it was about 77% of the scoring in matches was in autonomous and endgame, right? So you're only talking about like 25% or less was in the teleop period. So pretty much if you would win auton and make sure you climbed at the end, you had a good chance you were going to win the match. So we saw that throughout the district, Michigan district system. You also saw other, areas, of course, LA North, where they were shooting tons of balls and putting them up. But even then, the control panel only happened a handful of times. So I think that's going to change as we go forward. But there's a lot of different ways to play this game. But if you can come out of autonomous with a good lead and you can climb pretty successful, you can kind of set your own destiny and choose your own destiny.
We had to sort of take that to the nth degree at the event I was at in Northern Connecticut this weekend. The number 2 seed was Team 61, the Intimidators, and they would line up to hang at about between 60 and 100 seconds left in the match, every single match. And they would hang every match with a partner, and they would balance. And so they won probably 2/3 of their matches and got the bonus ranking point every time. And that was enough to get them the number 2 seed. That's like probably the biggest swing in one direction of what you just described I've ever seen. They did not make it very far in the quarterfinals with their strategy, because you can't beat an alliance that can put up a lot of points with balls. But it was just wild to see this robot that literally would just wait 45 seconds to hang, ended up coming in the number 2 spot.
We saw a bit of a similar mechanic back in 2016. You had a lot of teams that were really low goal specialists in that game, where, to get the ranking point, to get the tower down, you just had to get those 10 boulders in. And we saw not quite upside down brackets, but there were a lot of teams who were low goal specialists who couldn't really hold their own when it got to playoffs. I wonder if we're going to see a lot more of that.
I think if you have a good autonomous, which is usually scoring balls in autonomous, you can go further. I think if your only option is a climb, you might struggle a little bit because there are ways for you to overcome a 25-point-ish climb by shooting power cells into the port, inner port or outer port. So I don't think you can live on a climb alone and win an event. You have to have some kind of ball manipulation in order to be successful with this game.
Just to touch on that real quick, I think you're correct in all cases except for week 1. I was just, as you guys were talking there, I was punching through my scouting data from our event week 1, and there was more average end game points than teleop points.
Yep.
So it
Yeah,
really
I think
goes to show how important the climbs were week.
that I think we all are going to agree that that's going to level out throughout the season. But week 1 there's some, there's opportunities to get by with different strategies. So
Yep.
there's some things that can be done, and
Sure.
it's going to apply. Anyone who's going into week 2 and you're worried that your robot isn't quite ready, don't panic. I mean, if you can just hit a couple shots in auto and climb, that's going to make you a possible alliance captain this early in the season. Now, come week 6, that's just not going to cut it. But right now, and especially we know that all regions in FRC are not created equal, and so there's some regions where that's going to be hit. It's just like last year. Score a panel, hit a panel in auto, and then end game climb was a huge recipe for success. So.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, clearly climbing matters right now. We haven't really seen many, if any, unicorn matches at all this past week.
No, I believe actually nobody got the control panel ranking point at all anywhere in FRC. That's the stat, right? Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
No one ever got the color portion. Not even they didn't get the RP. No one even got where you would have to turn it to a specific color. But there was some spins.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, when is the control panel going to matter?
I think once you start seeing teams playing their second event, I think top teams, like high-end teams, I think Israel event 3, wherever Orbit's at, and if you have 3339 Bumblebee or Bumbleb, as I like to call them, you put them at an event together for their second play. I think there's a potential alliance that's going to be able to do that. But I think you're going to need these teams that we saw put up great performances in week 1, 1619, 1678, 1690, 2200, 188, 2337. You get them at their second event with another robot of that ilk, and we'll start to see it. Like, just thinking of Ontario in specific, I'm thinking week 4 in Waterloo is going to be the place where it starts to happen.
I think that's a good chance that Waterloo is maybe one of the first ones that does get that control panel RP. Maybe I don't know if that's like a unicorn stars align match where you just get the right teams. But we also saw this weekend 973, 1678, and Hawaiian Kids got together, and they didn't fully get there either. I heard there were some issues. I don't fully watch the whole thing, but at the same time, I still feel like it's going to be very hard to see this in qualifications till after probably, I want to say week 4. Hot take. I don't think we're going to see in qualification matches. I'm not saying during the playoffs. During the qualifications, you won't see this happen until after week 4.
Yeah, Waterloo seems like
I believe
the confluence, because at that point, 33, 35, 38, 41, 30 for Michigan will all be playing their third event, I believe.
Yep.
11, 14, 12, 41, 36, 83 will be playing their second event, and 2056 will be playing their first event. But I think anyone who knows 2056 knows their first event is equivalent to the 5th event for most teams.
It's funny. I was actually really thinking that we were going to see this coming week.
So here's a fear that I have for most people is that I think it's a situation where you need to do it. You need to get to those points. When you get to the points, this is now the first time ever that you've had to do it. You don't have practice doing it. You don't know if your sensor is going to malfunction or if your wheel spinner is going to be in the wrong location. And are you going to give up, let's say, 20, 30 seconds trying to do this when you can just go get a climb RP and get out with 3 RP? You know what I mean? Like, the problem is people won't have the practice to make it done efficiently and do it and execute it quickly.
Yeah, I can see that. As a team who did spin the control panel on the weekend, I can say that you don't need a sensor to do it.
No, I agree with you on that.
You can totally see what it's doing. It's not a great efficient way of doing it, but strap a bag motor and a versaplanetary and a flexible wheel to the back of your robot and see what happens. It didn't seem to take a whole lot of skill.
And your solution was definitely the simplest way I could see to manipulate the color wheel. Well, I mean, aside from the teams who were just putting their shooter wheel up against it.
Sure, yeah. It wasn't worth the time we put into it. Probably not.
I mean, I think this is a really interesting example of how of first changing the way the game is played with ranking points, right? I think it's pretty fair to say that the first stage of the wheel is not worth a ton of points, but if you can get to your second stage, position control is totally worth it from just a ranking point perspective. Especially, I mean, if you can do that and double hang, easy money, right? But
absolutely,
being able to notionally spend a lot less time than hanging to get your ranking point is huge. And this is one of the reasons I really love ranking points in games, and I think they make a really great way of the games. But I would say that this is the most challenging ranking point to achieve since Fuel, for sure. Maybe even harder. It's hard to say.
I think it's harder.
I think it's harder.
Okay.
Fuel one robot could do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. We could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
the Michigan State Championship, we got 38 balls in auto, and we did volley, and we got the RP. You could do it you cannot do this task by yourself. You have to have partners.
So one strategy that I want to discuss, not necessarily a strategy, but I think, we're talking about 2017 already, but I think we saw at the event that Adam and I were at a little bit of what I call hanging roulette. F's sake. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was talking about the hang roulette, as I called it, but we saw a bunch of the top alliances at Durham where they could all do triple hangs and balance, and basically they were fairly closely matched on balls, and it was just coming down to who messed up their hang was going to determine the match, and it very much reminded me of 2017. And I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as 2017, but the scoring was a step function that year. But it's it's scary when one team just not being able to get up, or one team jerking the bar and messes it up. Like Adam, like you had that one match where 40-39 and 6-10 almost pulled the upset, but then 40-39 just stopped. So it's a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of Clinton's favorite phrases last year was "climb chicken."
Chicken climb.
Or chicken climb. You're right. It's going to be just so weird at the end of the match. I think there aren't as many teams as I thought would have gone into it with a dead man switch on the robot, where you just get your hooks up there and you make sure they're latched, and you just wait for the system to end the match, and your solenoid triggers and your cylinders return to the rest position, which is retracted, and you climb it.
Well, that's the challenge with that kind of idea, is it's really risky, right? Like if you have a buddy up there and they're maybe on an edge or something, or if your hang would cause the hang to upset, there's a lot of people's robots who maybe are designed in one way or another where if the switch isn't level or close to level, when you do that, you knock them off of being level, right? And so then they can hit the ground. I'm reminded of a picture I saw from that Glenn Lee posted on his Facebook, where he's like, all right, we had ourselves a climb and a balance, but then our partner ran into us and tried to climb, knocked the bar over, we landed on top of them and got nothing, right? So a last second climb is risky if you're not coordinated before you do it.
Could I distract for 1 second and just talk about how Glenn Lee's Facebook is like the breaking source for news in FRC? It's like, this is how we all found out the Taiwan event was canceled. This is how we, like the whole discussion about like hitting someone while you climb. Glenn Lee's Facebook is just, it's okay boomer, but like that's just where you go.
Yes. Maybe Glenn should start a Patreon.
Hey man, speak for yourself. I've got Jerry Butt.
Fair enough. Yeah. But
I do think that the chicken climb will start to rear its face more and more throughout the season. You're going to know how long it takes people to climb, and some people really, really like to climb at 30 seconds, 35 seconds. And if your climb is only 10 seconds, you can go early and play defense on them, because you know where they're going to do their last cycle of balls. You know where they're going to try to shoot from, and you can try to slow that down. And if they get in the wrong corner, the wrong spot, you could prevent 25 points. Or because that person needs to be on the far end to balance with their partner, you might be actually preventing more, 40 points because they can't get the balance because the other person's already up. So that's just going to start happening more and more as we go through the season.
Yeah, we actually saw, I don't know if we would necessarily call it climb chicken, but there were definitely instances at Glacier Peak this past weekend, 49-11 and 29-10 in one of the finals matches. They ended up turning over finals 1, if I remember correctly, because of some stuff with climb. It looked like somebody was on the ground and they reversed the decision. But you wait that long to climb, you might not get up.
Yeah, one of the things that I was sort of noticing is for the teams who can't reach the bar when it's in its highest position, you need to plan ahead for that, and you need to be the first one to the bar. It's going to be level if there's nobody else there. And you need to let the teams you're working with know that, hey, I can't reach the bar if you pull down on it.
For sure.
But some people only get one shot at it. There's a lot of...
for Adam and Clint, who were drive coaching this week, how was the communication about setting up these double and triple climbs? How was that?
It wasn't bad. A lot of the communication about climbs happened during a pre-match. The communication problem behind the glass, I think, is with these tilted end driver stations. It's a lot of distance to go. If you're in the one end driver station, you need to communicate with the team on the other end. That's a long way away.
Yeah, station 1 is not fun.
Station 1's the worst.
It's lonely. It's the loneliest station in the world. One
is so cold.
Francis, do you have that song on a cassette tape?
Yeah. It's the distance isn't the only thing. You have goal or the port in between you, and it's kind of a bigger structure. So it's very hard to communicate with people there. The other thing is you have human players that are standing in that area to clear out the power cells as they're scored. So that makes it very difficult to try to maneuver through the human players and try to talk to the teams. And the other thing is during the eliminations, you have the captains in number 2, and your first pick is in position 1. So those two are the ones that usually probably have the better climb. So those two are the ones that got to communicate a little bit more. So it can make it a little bit difficult. I think going into a match and clearly talking about how to set up the climb goes a long ways. We were fortunate this weekend to be able to climb and balance and get the RP in 6 out of the 12 matches we played. We ended the event with a 2.5 RP, which I think is the highest that anybody had this weekend. And it's because we talked with our partners beforehand. We came up with a game plan, and we didn't play this game where one just went on the one end of the bar, hung on and said, good luck, buddy. Hopefully you can reach the bar when it's super high in the air. Good luck. I'm hanging, and let's see what you can do. You work with your partners. Having a climber that can stabilize the bar for your partner can also go a long way too, where you can hold the bar a little bit, let them get hooked on, and then climb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that I definitely took note of this weekend was that the teams who I'm going to say place a hook on the bar, have a lightweight arm that hooks. I call it a one-shot climber, right? Because you got one shot, and when this bar's swinging around, that's a hard thing to do. We saw, a few times where one shot wasn't enough, and now you're not. So something to think about.
Yeah.
Same thing with people with ratchets. People that have ratchets that they can extend it with like spring load, and then they ratchet down, and that ratchet just gets a little bit below the bar, and they can't get on. Yeah, we saw that this weekend too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Team 190. We have a ratchet and spring assisted climber. That happened to us one match, and I think in the one match I'm thinking of, our partner climbed, then put the bar uneven, and we managed to get on to the other side in the last few seconds. But if this was like, the finals of the last 10 seconds, we would have been absolutely out of luck with that. So, yep. Not something we're looking to change out yet, because we still have a whole other half of the robot to fix. But it's one of those things that's like you got to plan ahead.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, we were using the versaplanetary ratchet station.
Rough, man. That's rough.
They were working okay, but you can only go one way with them. So solve that with a little. There's always ways around what you got going on, right? Like I've seen teams use a ratcheting wrench on the hex shaft, and they welded on a little tab to extend the little switch on the ratchet, and they're moving it with a servo.
That's not a bad idea.
That's pretty good. Yeah. So I think we've kind of exhausted all the climbing problems from week 1. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out this upcoming weekend. But speaking of simple things to avoid, or things that you'd think would be simple to avoid, is power cells, which have been all sorts of interesting the last few days.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw my first practice match, I was yet again reminded about what happens when small objects go into robots. I saw a lot of people early on get beached by them. But the thing that really surprised me is that the very first qualification match at the event I was at this weekend, somebody actually popped a power cell. Like their robot, their robot landed on top of the power cell. There was an audible boom, and then they left, and the power cell was in half. I don't know how. I assume that the little opening at the bottom.
Is this on video?
Video, or it didn't happen?
Oh, it's on video.
That would be a number 5 on the power cell scale, meaning it would have.
Yes, it would be a 5.
Yeah.
That was a 5. Yes, it was a little crazy. You can look up the video. Oh, never mind. Sorry, I'm in New England. We don't have any videos except for the events I run. but that's a different story. So, but yeah, no,
Hot takes.
Yeah, hot takes. So, at our event, we weren't seeing a ton of damage to too many power cells, but I know that we're seeing a lot of robots run them over and slice them up, hit them up in the shooter and stuff. Are you guys?
Can we come play in your region, please?
Well,
can we come play in your region?
It'll change once teams start to get good, I'm sure. But like, how are things in Michigan there, Clinton?
I mean, I think what we saw this weekend at Kettering, it gave us a good idea of what we expect to see at the rest of our matches. The field people are doing a great job of trying to manage, replacing them every second with a brand new one, and and leaving bad ones out there. If they saw, they had some kind of specification that was given to them by first, but they were doing a really good job of it. I think the other thing that we appreciated is like when it came down to the playoffs, they weren't like, okay, boys, here's all brand new power cells. Play with these and have fun. They kind of like kept business as usual and replaced like they were, and they didn't just give us a bunch of new ones because then that would have teams chasing things. So we kind of have a sense of what it's going to be like, this next weekend and in future games. Plan on having balls with holes in them and stabs and that are not going to be pristine because that's the way they're going to be for the rest of
the Yeah. One thing I definitely noted was the difference between a worn power cell and a brand new one in where our shot goes is vastly different. We were practicing at a practice field with fairly worn out power cells, but on the competition field, we were shooting 2 feet over the top of the goal. And then, we adjusted down for it. And as the competition went on, we had to keep adjusting it back up until we ended up, by the end of the event, right back where we started.
So a hot take that I don't think First would ever do that I would love. I think personally, First should stab every single one of the balls with.
Yeah, that would definitely make a difference. Something that I know, like. Sorry, go ahead.
In 2012, there were definitely teams whose human players were poking the balls, every ball they could for that.
Yeah. So, but I think if First just did it out of the gate and told everyone they were going to do it, we would know what the balls would be like. And there would be more consistency and you'd have better competition.
Yeah.
And so the other bit is that as the weeks go on, so from what I understand, each field is only given, what is it, 1/3 of replacement
24
cells, or 24, whatever. Yeah,
I heard 24.
20. Yeah. It's 24 replacement.
Yeah, so that's about anyway, like 24 replacement pieces, right? Half. Yeah. So they only have about half replacement pieces. So that means as time goes on, you're gonna. I mean, like as events go on, like week 2 and beyond, we're gonna see probably more worn cells getting used. So you'll have at least a little bit more regularity in there to a certain extent.
Well, I think once we get out of weeks 1 and 2, we're going to see a lot more consistency in the power cells. The thing is, team events need to send on their 48 best balls to the next event, which they may be held together with fabric glue. And it's I don't want to be the one to say it's part of the challenge, but it's going to be.
I think where it gets difficult is ball. There's different types of ball wear, and just a ball that's been worn down a bit and punctured a few times is very different than one that's missing chunks out of it. And so those, if you pick up 5 balls and one is fairly new, 2 are punctured, worn down a bit, and 2 have gouges out of them, those 5 balls are going to fly very differently. And that's where you're going to see a little bit of the weirdness. I think the goal is very forgiving with how large it is, the outer portal, but the inner portal is not forgiving at all. And so that's where it really shows. But I think that's why we saw a lot of teams who probably would have been aiming to shoot from a lot further this week really coming up close. And if that's the way this game plays, and that's the way this game plays, like it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's frustrating for those who design to shoot long, but those who design to shoot long will still be able to shoot up close, although they may have made some other design trade-offs which make shooting up close a little bit harder, like having a tall robot. And so, mobility from one side of the field to the other is a little bit restricted. It is frustrating. I get, but we are where we are. Balls aren't, they can't just conjure these things up. They can't scrape up all the lemon zest out there and then bunch it back into something. So,
Unless.
No, there is.
Like, is there like an X-Men, like, you know, for like, instead of like Magneto who had magnetic power, for lemon zest power to like and reform balls?
I believe that would be Professor X.
That's true. Jean Grey, maybe.
One thing I wish we could get first to do is, the problem that we're running into is when they introduce like 5 new balls into a field of worn out ones. I think what a better solution might be is to, whenever there's new balls available, get them into play and just cycle them in and out every match. So you're always putting an even amount of wear across the set of game pieces at the event. You know, if you have 24 new ones at the event, put them on the field for practice day and get them worn in a little bit, so that by the time quals come around, everything's a little more even.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting.
That's not a bad idea.
Right.
You should send that idea to FRC teams at First Inspire stuff.
Maybe I will.
It's not a bad idea. You know, and this reminds me, not to be an old man again, but it reminds me of Einstein in 2006 when they had a whole set of brand new balls for the field, and I think was trying to be like, yeah, new balls, it's great. And then 25 shots were just going everywhere, to the point where they decided kind of to not shoot in auto mode, which kind of put them at a bit of a disadvantage during the rest of the match.
I mean, the 2012 champs was the same sort of thing. Like, there were a lot of disasters in 2012 champs. Let's not kid ourselves here. But when elimination round started, like, those fresh new orange balls devastated a lot of shooters.
Yeah.
Like, a 341 was one robot, which, I mean, I thought they were, other them were 1717, the best robot in the world, coming to the champs, and then all of a sudden, like, it was just another world for them.
Yeah, it's something to be said for track balls and cargo, and all the other inflatable balls. Fuel. You didn't even have to worry about the air pressure of fuel. It just holds its shape. It's such great, shape holding space.
Do you know where we would be able to get some fuel?
Yeah, but see, the problem with fuel is then suppliers buy too much fuel, and then they can't get rid of the fuel because they don't pop or have limits.
Hey, there's currently a petition open to have a ball pit at both championships, provided that we can crowdsource enough sanitizing for all of the fuel.
Also,
we only have.
We're worried about high fives at events, and we're talking about ball pits.
Ball pits.
Also, I've cut myself on fuel. It's
Anyways,
what are you doing?
Wait, maybe there's another use for. All right. Anyway.
But it's a game piece that we literally haven't seen since 2012. Apart from mentors who are coming back like Karthik and folks who have played in 2012, it's like 8 years of turnover since that game. We haven't seen a foam game piece or a game piece that's this easily destroyed. Everything's been pretty freaking durable.
Yeah, I mean,
we just lost that tribal knowledge of how
the 2016 game pieces are the same material basically, but like they were like launched or sort of like flung as opposed to yeeted from afar.
But you also held one. You also held one game piece, not five.
That's the big thing, right? Yeah.
Yep, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Robots are jamming and they're destroying the game pieces in ways, and they're smaller diameters, so it's easier to go under robots. Where the larger diameter stronghold balls didn't do that as easy. People drove over them. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as easy as these game pieces.
Also, I think the 2016 ball had a tougher skin, so it was harder.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
It might have been elephant skin as opposed to dinosaur skin.
Yeah, because it was great.
I would love to know who actually knows what dinosaur skin is like. I would like to meet this person.
Isn't there a museum in Canada that has a perfectly fossilized and preserved dinosaur?
Probably not with skin.
Yeah, with skin and plates and everything. Like, they literally dug it up out of the oil.
Like a dinosaur or like a woolly mammoth?
A dinosaur. Legit.
Oh, wow.
Oh, geez. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed in you.
You sure it wasn't a moose?
Positive.
So here, I'll be the one to throw out this question. What do we think about the long shot versus short?
I mean,
I am biased for the long shot.
see, I'm the opposite. I'm biased for the short shot.
hey, if you can make the long shot consistently, then there's obviously advantages because it cuts down your
Correct.
cycle. I think right now with the balls, we've yet to see someone who can. But I'm going to say this: there is going to be some team out there that, even with the inconsistency of these balls, can hit that long shot, and I think it's going to be a separator.
Yeah. See, I think that the thing that I want to take away from it, I'll be honest, our team went after that. We wanted to have the ability to do that. We tried this weekend doing it. We got a little bit of shade from other people in the community about having a low shot percentage. But we still want to try and go after it. We don't just want to give up the first time a system doesn't work. And we're still going to chase to see what we can get out of it. If you can make those shots, 4 out of 5, I think it can be worth it in the long run. But like I said, people are going to have unbag time to try to figure out what can make these, deflated balls shoot better and have a better accuracy. And I think the bigger thing is actually making it where you get more consistent balls all the time, whether they're always deflated or always is kind of the option that you have to go with instead of always, brand new balls. You have to be able to shoot the deflated ones.
So I think there's also a little bit of a catch-22 here, because I think if you really want to get that nice, consistent shot from distance, you probably want to get a little bit more compression on the ball, and you're going to be whipping it at a super high RPM, and that combination is more likely to damage more balls as well.
Here's an interesting question about ball damage, and I think we're really not going to see a lot of, answers to this. So you don't necessarily have to answer this question right away, but I think we're also seeing a lot of balls degloving. So they're losing the outer covering, but they're maintaining their physical structure. How is that going to affect teams that are using that for vision tracking in terms of picking up balls? During that tournament?
Well, I think if it's just the ball internally and the skin's just shifting on it, is that what you're describing? I don't think that'll affect vision targeting for acquiring.
It's a combination of degloving and.
We've done some testing with ball tracking, and it still sees a yellow object even if it has a chunk out of it.
I'm talking more like an entire side of the yellow skin being off the ball shape.
Well, that would be a level 5, and that would be removed.
Mm-hmm.
Level 5.
Yeah, we definitely didn't see anything that.
All right. Well, I think we've had enough fun talk about degloving, which is a word you should never Google. But we're gonna go on to questions from the audience. Again, last call. If you got a question from the audience, put an exclamation point Q and your question in the chat. We'll read it, pull it into the thing, and if we like it, we'll show it up here on screen. So first up, we have our first question. This is from Clinto_, who I don't know who that could possibly be. What are y'all's predictions for champs' #1 seed and ranking scores? Clinton, why don't you start that off? What are your thoughts?
That wasn't me. I did not have one of my students say anything.
I thought it was
probably
you, actually.
Clint.
Well, my teammates are over in the lab, and they managed to open up my Twitch account and chat as me in the chat. So I don't know if it was. Go ahead.
I'm going to say 3.1. 31 over 10 matches.
That sounds pretty reasonable. For at least some divisions.
I'm thinking that's a team who goes 9-1, so they pick up 18 points right there, and then they get 13 other ranking points. I think,
I'll do hot take less than 3.
I'm with Clinton, but I think we're going to see 2.7.
Clint, what did you seed #1 with this week?
2.5.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of time between now and then, and you're only going to get better, and
Sure. My concern isn't us getting better. It's not controlling your destiny all the time with these RPs. There's just times you get matched with people who can't do a climb, right?
Right. And
yes, you can cheesecake them and stuff like that, and there's other options. But there was times that it was really hard. Even people that said, oh, yeah, we're good on the climb, and they go late, or the hook goes up and it falls off. I fear that it's going to be very difficult to get out with a perfect 3-0 RP.
So I'm going to amend mine.
Absolutely.
I'm going to amend mine. Go on.
The other thing with that is, as we get to the district championships and later in the season, the pool gets more and more skilled. And then we get to the Worlds, and we kind of go back to a more diluted pool to what we would see at a standard regional or at a typical district event. Not everybody there has won an event. There are a lot of teams who have gone on as EI, or they've advanced through wildcard, or they were the last pick of the first seed alliance. They're not necessarily those top tier teams you're going to see who can pull off, the 3 to 4 ranking points every single match.
So I'll amend this. The 3.1, I was not, I wasn't really thinking about the fact that we have 12 divisions to deal with. So I think at least one of the divisions will get to 3.1.
I'm with you there.
Setting the bar like for the lowest one, it's I think maybe like a 2.7, which is like a 27 over, but yeah. But I do think that there will be one division where you have at least one team that either has a buddy climb or is able to strap themselves to another team, pull them up or something like that to help in that regard. And if you have that deep division, that's kind of like Curie was last year in Detroit, where you'll have more shot at the 49 balls.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, Karthik, that we haven't discussed because we haven't seen it yet. Anybody really achieve buddy climbs consistently, right?
There was 2 in the state of Michigan.
Right. Well, that's two is good, right? But and it's a good start, and I think it's about appropriate for week 1, right? The key is to see the robots that are able to do it every event, like 254 was with their partners. You know what I mean?
Hot take. Buddy climbs will go down as the season goes.
Oh,
absolutely. There should be less of a need for them.
Okay, that's fair.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
and like, I'm sorry for anyone that may have it. I think there's people that might become an alliance captain, and they won't be able to win the event because they have the buddy climb, but they don't have the rest of the package.
Yeah. Speaking of climbing, let's talk about our next question here from the audience here. This question comes in from Trevor C131. What's the most effective way to achieve the Shield Gen ranking point? Balancing with a VAR traverser, a buddy climber, or just coordinating with your alliance?
Coordinating with your alliance.
Yeah, I think
alliance coordination.
That's for me at least was way easier than trying to do any other goofy stuff on the bar.
Yep.
Including to the fact that
they give you these landmarks on the field, this little black bar that separates your team's color. Is very, very helpful for lining up to make your climbs very, very easy to get with your partners.
Yeah, and the bar is very forgiving. That plus or minus 8 degrees is a lot. It's so much so that I don't think it was intuitive to the audience a lot at all.
Yeah, I know that at least I was. So during our quarterfinal match, we received a yellow card for breaking a zip tie on somebody apparently. But I was really upset with the referees because I was like, oh, why are they giving us a yellow card when we're about to be eliminated from the event because I can see that their switch is nowhere close to balanced. And then up goes the score and we win. And I was like, oh, okay, well, never mind that. Even I couldn't understand exactly when it was balanced. I know that the overlay has the little light that lights up when it's balanced, but for some reason it wasn't. It was showing balanced for both alliances, but the final score showed that it wasn't. And I don't know.
Because it takes the 5 seconds after the fact when I believe the overlay stops updating right at 0, but
no 5.
The overlay's still live for those 5 seconds.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I
from
thought.
what I noticed this weekend is at t equals -5. Whatever that state is what you get. Is what we noticed this weekend. So we would be watching it and it'd be going, white and then blue and then white and blue and it stays on blue and we're like, we think we got the balance.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear.
Just to touch on that, mechanisms to level the bar other than just lining yourself up properly. Our robot does have a mechanism for shifting its weight left and right based on where we're hanging. And throughout the whole event, I don't think we ever had to use it. You just, know your alliance partner's weight, adjust for it. A good educated guess. It doesn't take a whole lot to get that par to level out. Kind of wants to level out on it.
Yeah, I mean, we have one on our robot as well, and we basically only ever wanted to use it when things went sideways, like literally and figuratively, right? You know, like when we were trying to get up and we didn't hook on correctly, or our partners maybe had a little bit of a freak out moment and didn't quite get exactly where they should have been, or somebody was late to the bar and we had to hang and hope that they could get up at the end. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Just planning and thinking through it is probably the easiest way to get this all together. So, all right.
The buddy climbs, I think, take too long to set up too. You're missing opportunities for shooting.
Right.
And probably whoever has a buddy climb is probably not the first person you want to go up. You want to have them be the last person because they're skilled at other things.
True. Yeah.
Alrighty.
I don't want 1678 going up first.
Yeah, or going back with 30 seconds left.
Yes.
Yep. I want them to go last and be really quick at it.
Yep. All right. So we have one last question from the audience. We'll do this really quick. This is from Fishy07. He asks, they ask, excuse me, what part of the game will be more relevant as teams improve through the season? I mean, the 3-point shot, Karthik?
Yep.
All right.
I think while some teams are going to be trying to, move back and try and shoot from further, I think other teams are going to be really trying to dial in to get as many threes as they can, both in auto and teleop. I know, for example, at Durham, Adams Alliance 188 was really good at putting in threes in the ELO. That was a big difference. Clint, I know you're autonomous. You were putting in a lot of threes right there. That was a difference maker. And I think the 3-point shot is more achievable than I initially thought. And yeah, despite all the stuff we talked about with the ball damage and the such, I think the teams that can really make that 3-point shot effective will separate themselves from others. Orbit, another example I saw.
The autonomous is the easiest point to get those threes. You're lined up. You're squared up to the hole. You make them go in the back. We had one match where we put 8 in the inner port and 1 in the outer port by having our partners load us. And if you did all of them in the back, everyone moves off the line. That's 69 points that you can get just in autonomous, and it's a comfortable lead to have. And as we go further, those will start increasing where you're not getting only 9 balls in autonomous. You're getting anywhere from the 14 or even 19 balls. I can foresee at Champs you having 19 ball autos.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it.
From an alliance.
The teams that are going to be there are going to, from now, we're 7 weeks out from Champs. Champs is week 8, and then nothing 9, and then 10. So, we're over halfway through the entire season right now from kickoff to the end of Detroit.
Woo!
So it's
it's
exciting. But
9 weeks from Detroit Champs, teams can build a new robot.
Yeah,
Doofa. Please don't say those words.
But Karthik, I gotta disagree with you. I think that the control panel is going to be way more relevant as teams improve throughout the season, because that's going to turn into ranking points, which is going to win or lose. It's going to make or break alliance captains.
Yeah, I think I'm more willing to. I think both have merit. I'm more willing to go toward the 3-pointer only because I think that you're going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot fewer 4RP matches this year. Like a lot fewer, right? Like you may see maybe I don't want to spitball, but not a lot, right? And I think that the teams that are able to execute an effective double hang and do the control panel are going to be very rare, especially in qualification matches. So really, at that point, you're asking, do I do the hang for the double hang for the RP there, or do I do all the shooting and all the control paneling for the RP there, right? I think that you're you may see different kinds of 3 rank point matches, but very rarely will you see 4. And right now we know that there are teams that can execute a 3 RP match every match.
I don't see the 3 RP with just the spinning the control panel. I feel like I don't know. Maybe you will, but I just feel like more people are going to get the climb.
Yes.
People by like week 4 and 5 are going to know how to climb, and it's going to be easier to execute. It takes less. It does not take 30 seconds to climb. Well, it takes like 10 seconds.
I do think one thing that I think you will see teams who are so, they're going for the white elephant, or the white whale of the ball RP, that they will then mess up their climb. Like we
or
saw,
lose their match.
we saw that last year. A few alliances, they were so focused on finishing that rocket, and then it's like, oh, we kind of messed up. So.
Mhm.
But that's how you can like lose matches sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. How you can lose matches.
Like,
like you throw away those hanging points. Like forget about the RP value. There, like we were
50
talking
points
with hang roulette. You know, there's like last year we saw teams totally lose matches because they're so focused on trying to finish a rocket.
Yep. 2 RP is always better than 1.
Yes, that's true. Right. All right. Well, everybody, thank you all for watching GameSense this week, and big thank you to everybody for being here, and a huge thanks to our guest Adam. Adam, good luck with the rest of your season. Congratulations on getting
Thank you.
blue banner, and I wish you all the best going forward through the rest of your districts and district championship.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, couple of last words here to bring up. A reminder to everybody who's watching, you should tune in to this Saturday from noon to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's play-by-play, back again this year. We've got the RoboSports Network here is working with First to bring live coverage of all the best matches from week 1 all the way through till the end of the Detroit Championship. This coming week, we've got a couple of great hosts that are going to be in live at the studio showing all the best matches. No need to have 75 different streams up on your big screen TV. Just tune on play-by-play. Not only will you hear all the best matches, but you hear all the best commentary and some other interesting things in between. So you can watch that at twitch.tv/firstinspires. You should go in and follow that channel right now anyway, just so you know when they're live. All right, with that said, we hope to see you all here next week, 9 p.m. Eastern again, for the next episode of GameSense. And last but not least, I got to tell you guys, we had a lot of great thoughts last year about Tom's top 5 that he did. Tom made his top 5. However, my computer done broke on me and I can't play the video that he made. So we're going to put that up on the internet and link to it on Chief Delphi after the show. So make sure to check out that thread afterward. But for me and the rest of the crew here at RoboSports Network, we hope you have a great evening and see you guys next week. Bye-bye.